Delineated in the report, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Handshake. Thank you, sir.
Excellent.
All as competent, if not more competent than I, to address some of these questions. The first question is on the farmer-herder conflicts. Obviously, there are many variables which have taken our country to where we are, where we almost perennially have these conflicts between farmers and herders. You know, in the past, we had ample land and some areas were demarcated for herders, while farmers had work on their own farms. And of course, over time, there were so many things that had happened in terms of population explosion, which means more land needs to be put to good use for food security. And then we also had climatic changes. Over time, we had situations in which increasingly climate changes affected the availability of land, both for herding as well as for farming. So tremendous pressure came to be borne on land, and so the competition for these scarce resources, in particular land and water, brought farmers and herders into conflicts. And unfortunately, again, because of challenges of policies and their implementation that somebody mentioned, even areas that had been demarcated for herders were increasingly encroached upon. Even areas that were demarcated as routes where herders could pass from one watering point to another were also increasingly encroached upon. And obviously, farmers have to move with their, herders have to move with their livestock in search of water and feeds, of fodder, you know. Obviously, the more they have less places, the more they go further to look for where to feed their cattle, and the more the routes are encroached, the more likely they are to trespass on land that has already been cultivated. So this is what has happened over time, and unfortunately, because of desertification and pressures of climate change, increasingly we also see massive movements both from other neighboring countries in the Sahelian region, also moving, looking for water and the feeds for their animals. So that complicated our own situation, and we have these challenges. So how do you minimize some of these challenges? We believe, and we've interrogated this very, very seriously to answer the question. We've looked at the history, we've looked at the causal factors, and then we looked at how best to solve some of these challenges. And we believe that at the bottom of it, the crisis of adjudication and justice contributes to the crisis. In what sense? In the sense that both farmers and herders increasingly feel that they don't get justice when it comes to the formal processes of adjudication in case of conflicts. And when that kind of situation occurs, people then begin to take law into their hands. And increasingly then we got into a situation in which virtually everybody began to arm themselves. Farmers will attack herders, herders will arm themselves, purportedly for protection, and sometimes even being aggressive in terms of attacking, preemptive attacks, if you will, where they thought they might come under attack. So these are very, very serious challenges, and in addition to that, the traditional mechanisms of conflict resolution had also collapsed. So we have made recommendations, having understood what the challenges are, in terms of, first and foremost, you have to find ways and the means of ensuring that you create opportunities that will ensure for the traditional herders, until you are able to win them away from that, that you can provide water points, you can provide feeds, and you can encourage them to settle in locations where throughout the year they could have feeds and they could have water. And if you are able to do that, in fact, the more they could settle around some of these places, the more then you can do even more in terms of extension work, in terms of providing services to them, and in terms of also actually even providing other things like education and health services and schools, for them. But that's a long-term plan, The immediate short-term plan is, of course, sensitization and public enlightenment, and the engagement with communities, and the beginning to revive those traditional conflict resolution mechanisms, but on the basis of justice and fair play. And we believe that there is a lot that many stakeholders a role that many stakeholders can play in order to bring this about. So at our committee, we've interrogated these challenges, we've come up with some suggestions, and we believe we can begin to address some of these challenges while we continue to perfect them and think of more suitable and appropriate models to do that. But as we improve productivity in the value chain entirely, then obviously the more it becomes easier for people to realize that it is not just enough to be moving hundreds of herds of cattle. It is also important to begin to see how they can imbibe new technologies and increase productivity, and be able to really get tremendous incomes and wealth from what they already have. So my colleagues, I'm sure, will contribute to the other questions, but I want to reassure you, and by the time you see the copies of the report, you will see the kind of specific recommendations we've made, and all our recommendations are for short, medium, and long term. And in fact, the entire reform of the sector we envisage could be done within a period of 10 years. But we already have recommendations. What do you do in the first 2 years? What do you do in the next 5 years? And what do you do so that you can achieve all of these within that time period of 10 years? All right, so on the issue of formulating programs and implementation is always a challenge. It's true. Nobody could say that is not true. It's been the bane of our policy making and implementation in this country. And our hope, certainly we at the level of helping to make recommendations and to implement are committed to doing our best. Everything we think of and we recommend is with the mindset of ensuring that this is something that can be sustainable, you know. And obviously the other challenge is in terms of getting square pegs in square holes and round pegs in round holes in terms of implementation of the reform process, especially even in the ministry that is going to drive this. We've made this point very clearly, and we came away with a very, very clear impression that Mr. President is also thinking in the same direction in terms of ensuring that whatever we do today, it must be with a mind of ensuring that it is sustainable in the future. And I believe that is one clear signal that things are now about to be done differently than the bad things that we are used to know in the past. So we remain hopeful, we remain committed, and we urge every Nigerian to be committed. We have to stop seeing these kinds of important policies from the prism of individual or communal benefits. This is a national undertaking. The potentials and the benefits are there for everybody. And we are also going to circulate some of these pamphlets which we have developed, which summarize what opportunities are there in the livestock sector. We are talking of investments in the trillions, okay, of dollars, not to talk of naira, you know. So, and the opportunities are there. It's just how to harness them and how to pursue them with a mind of creating jobs, creating opportunities, providing services, and ensuring that all of us are the better for it, you know. So it's not about particularistic groups, it's about our country. That's the way we have been approaching it. That's the way Mr. President wants it to be approached. All right, so, yes. Sorry? No, it's a combination of both. It's not an either-or situation. You cannot wake up tomorrow and all you have is ranching, because you already have quite a large chunk of the population in traditional pastoral activities. What do you do with them? You know, so it's not an either-or. Any solution that has to be developed for now has to be a combination of both. While we are promoting the long-term objective is that we now have intensive livestock production. That is a long-term objective. But we know you can't wake up one day and have that. So you have to develop policies and frameworks that can accommodate both for a period of time, while increasingly the objective is to have intensive livestock production, not extensive in the nature of pastoralism that we have now. I think some of the challenges we have had in the past, and those also led to politicization of the issues, is we are quick to develop a single frame of mind with regards to what the solution is. You know, but in a complicated situation like we have, you know, you have to really think in terms of incremental positive changes, but you must have a time frame within which this should be achieved. All right, thank you very much. Professor Njoku.
Yes, I'd like to